What's up guys, Chris here from christhefreelancer.com, and in today's video it's going to be another one of my honest little rants about the digital nomad lifestyle. So hopefully you're down for that. The feedback on my previous videos where I just talked to camera about certain things that are going on have had good feedback, so hopefully you enjoyed this one as well. The inspiration for this video comes from where I'm at right now. I'm in a transition period where I am figuring out whether the nomadic lifestyle is the ideal lifestyle for me still. And I guess I'm trying to pull back some of those elements you lose as a settled person. So if you remember back to the start of the year, I sat on the couch down at the Gold Coast and I said to you guys that I wanted to kind of move on from this idea of being a digital nomad, not because I don't like the idea of it anymore or that there's anything wrong with it. I just felt like I had to say something because I wasn't in the mode to continuously travel to new destinations all the time. It was getting exhausting. It wasn't serving me. And to be honest, I just had to say something on camera because, as you've seen recently, I've been doing a lot less traveling and the content has kind of changed on this channel. And in a lot of ways, I'm not particularly happy with the things I said on that video. I felt like I was a little bit too negative or too prescriptive to you guys, saying like, yeah, travel the world, go on a binge, but you know, you'll wake up and realize kind of thing. Honestly, if you want to go traveling, it may work for you, and my experience does not mean that you're going to have a similar experience. So that's the big disclaimer with this video, is that this is kind of just my perspective, my experience. It's not going to be like this for everyone who takes up this kind of lifestyle. Just keep that in mind, that this is a perspective to listen to, but don't think of what I'm saying in terms of extremes like, oh, digital nomad lifestyle is bad, or you can't do this as a digital nomad. And any generalizations I make are just generalizations. Not everyone is going to fit into these generalizations. All right? So we got that out of the way. Okay, let's begin. So as you might have realized, I'm back in Australia now. I did a month in Chiang Mai and then 2 months in Bali. And then I came back to the Gold Coast. Now I'm here in Brisbane. And after a few weeks of being back home, it was an adjustment. And it really doesn't necessarily make sense because I've been traveling to different places around the world and setting up shop in different places. And as long as I've got my computer there and I'm working on something, then most of my life is the same. I can still go out and get food. I can work from home. Nothing had really changed in terms of my lifestyle, but something had changed in terms of this collective mindset that I was re-entering. And I guess what I was trying to get used to is this pace of life here. I think with digital nomads, we're often living in the moment and we're talking about travels, and you know, you could be one place one week and one place the next. You ask somebody when you're in Bali, hey, do you want to go down to Uluwatu tomorrow? They're like, yeah, sweet, let's do it. You know, there's just this pace of life and everyone's kind of living in the moment to kind of coming back to the real world, or whatever you want to call it, normal Western society life. And the pace is definitely different. People, I've found, are building for the future. You know, it's the classic narrative of you know, getting an education, finding a good career, finding love, starting a family, buying a house, and then going into retirement later in life. And so this is the kind of difference in pace of life that I've discovered. Most people are working a 9 to 5, working for that retirement, working for that long-term wealth creation, and you know, enjoying themselves, but not as in the moment as, you know, digital nomads and travelers. So I think that's been the biggest adjustment, but through that process, I've kind of seen the other side, and I've realized there's certain things that I've been forgetting as a nomad that you take for granted as, let's say, a settler. So I know that was a pretty long intro into what I want to talk about today, but the topic of today's video is about, you know, learning from both sides, because people who are big advocates of this digital nomad lifestyle stress that, oh, don't follow the classic narrative. That's boring. You can live your life to the fullest, traveling to different places and be a digital nomad, avoid all responsibility and just live life to the fullest. I think that's great and that we should all live in the moment. as much as possible, but then also not forgetting as we become nomads to invest for the future and to not let important things be sacrificed for just living in the now. So I want to talk about 4 areas in this video that I think nomads might be forgetting as they get caught up in this exciting world of being a digital nomad, and something that we can actually learn from the more settled folk in this world. And the first one and most important one that I think separates nomads from settlers is wealth building. So I'm not saying that every digital nomad doesn't take care of their long-term wealth creation, but I think a lot of people are forgetting how important it is to build wealth for the long term as they try and make this digital nomad lifestyle sustainable. And it's actually one of the things that Michael Craig, the founder of Dojo, brought up to me when I was in Bali. He is quite vocal about digital nomads. He spends a lot of time with them, obviously running one of the most popular digital nomad co-working spaces in the world. And he was saying to me over a Friday night beach and beer session that one of his concerns with digital nomads is that people aren't focused on this wealth creation. And it's funny because it's kind of groupthink, right? When we're in this settled world and everyone else is getting married and getting a mortgage, we kind of like start to think in the terms of those things. But as nomads, and you probably won't relate to this if you haven't been a nomad for a while, we start to think like all the other nomads and we're like, whoa, I'm making enough money to like live anywhere. This is awesome. And then we start to forget about long-term wealth creation and building assets. And it's funny that as I've been back in Australia, I've been remembering this and realizing that I haven't been taking care of like things like putting money into my retirement fund, because another friend of mine who has gone back to Canada for the summer, he started messaging me saying, man, it's weird. I'm like in Canada and now I feel like I should be investing, buying a house, saving for retirement. You just start to think more along those lines when you're in that society. But I think as nomads, when we're in that nomad bubble, that expat scene, where we can forget about these certain things, we should still consider wealth creation. So I guess a common path of people on their nomadic journey is they're bootstrapping for a certain period of time. And that's cool. Like, you don't want to have to focus on, building wealth for the long term, maybe in the first 6 months to a year as you're bootstrapping something that you feel is going to be big. So for bootstrappers, it's not a huge deal. But as you get through that stage where you're actually making money, start putting some money away, start investing in stuff. Maybe you still want to buy property, but you're going to lease it out on Airbnb. These are certain things that you have to consider if you want to make this lifestyle sustainable. And when it comes to wealth creation, I'm definitely no saint. In fact, this video is inspired out of a reminder to myself to not forget about wealth creation and building for the future while living this in the now digital nomad lifestyle. So this is just something that, I've forgotten as being a digital nomad, and judging from what I've heard from other people, it's something that we can easily slip into as being digital nomads, living in the present and not thinking about our retirement or even building assets for the long term. So the next area is health, and I'm talking mainly about diet and exercise. Honestly, this is not too big of an issue. I've felt myself slip a little bit in terms of establishing a consistent diet and fitness routine. When you're traveling to different places all the time, you have to kind of reestablish yourself, but it's totally doable. And actually, one of the questions that I put out to the Chiang Mai Digital Nomads Facebook group when I was in Chiang Mai doing regular videos with Nomad Fit was, what's holding you back the most from your health and fitness goals while you're being nomadic? And the biggest answer by far was about food choices, making healthy food choices on the road. Now I'm back in Brisbane, I'm doing my grocery shopping and I've been having lots of fruit and green vegetables, trying to eat healthier, not eating sugary treats, drinking only water, coffee, tea, and getting into a more healthy lifestyle again. But say for instance, you're traveling quite often, it can be hard to maintain that. And honestly, if you travel like month to month and you have a kitchen in your apartment, you can navigate these things. They're fine. But if you are not thinking about health and fitness as you are traveling and you're just eating whatever's on the street every day, maybe you should take a closer look at that. Honestly, I don't think health and fitness is a huge deal for a lot of people, but it's another thing to consider that we might actually forget as digital nomads while we're traveling and enjoying the local cuisine, is actually to eat healthy and stay fit. So we've talked about wealth, we've talked about health, things that we often consider a lot while we're staying in the one place, but when we're nomads experiencing the world, we sometimes forget. The third area is finding love. And depending on who you are, dating and finding love and finding a mate to spend your life with is difficult in itself, but then traveling and trying to find somebody to share your life with in these nomad circles is even harder. And I get the question sometimes, Chris, how does dating work when you're a digital nomad? How can you meet people that you can have a long-term relationship with when everyone's kind of traveling and being nomadic? And unfortunately, I don't have a magic bullet for this one. I mean, if you're a Westerner like me and you want to date other Western people from your own culture and you're not really interested in traveling to places where you're going to assimilate with the culture and find a local partner there and then maybe settle down with them, then it is going to be harder, because the expat bubble is smaller, people are more transient, they're probably less committed to being in that location. So you might end up finding somebody, forming a relationship, but they want to travel somewhere and you want to travel in a different direction. It's going to be a lot easier if you want to date another Western person to just stay in a Western country and meet other Westerners. So at the end of the day, I think that's just a sacrifice of being a long-term traveler or a nomad. You do sacrifice some dating opportunities to do that. But that being said, if you want to, say for instance, you're a Western male and you want to date South American girls, then obviously going to South America is going to increase your chances of dating. But if you're trying to look within this digital nomad community to find another digital nomad who you can travel the world with and build a long-term relationship, that's going to be a lot more difficult. In my experience, and again, this is just my experience, I've found that all of the digital nomads that I've met that were single to start with are either still single or they found a partner who's a local. In all the time I've spent in this digital nomad community, I probably only know one couple that met on the road and hit it off, and now they're traveling together. Most of the time I hear, and again, most of the people I know who do this digital nomad lifestyle as a single are men. Most of the time, if they're meeting a long-term partner, it's a local in the country they travel to. So again, that might be totally what you're after, in which case just go to the place where you want to date those people. But if you want to meet people of your own culture, it might be a consideration for you to live a more settled lifestyle and spend longer in the place where you're going to find those people. The final point 4, and I don't know if many people are dealing with this, but this is something that I struggle with, is this sense of feeling at home. So when you're a nomad, you don't have a permanent address. So you basically have to figure out in your head, where is my home? And I've been surprised to see some of my friends who are English or American confidently say that their home is in Thailand or wherever they're living. Some of my friends have said, oh, I will never go home, I'm happy here. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for me. I've always felt by going to these places and being on tourist visas that I am there on borrowed time. I don't have the same rights as the locals, nor am I entitled to them. Not complaining, by the way, that's just how it works, and I'm very blessed to come from a great country like Australia. But in terms of relocating, it does bother me that these places that I travel to, as much as I choose to live there, aren't necessarily recognizing me as a permanent resident. And so I know a lot of people that say they live in Thailand, but they're on back-to-back one-year visas where the purpose of that visa is social or educational or business not related to that country at all. So what I'm getting at with this whole feeling of being at home is, when you travel often and you don't have a home, you're not really investing in a single place. You might find that if you're hanging out in very transient places, other people are quite transient as well. And that might bother you if you just want some stability in terms of building long-term relationships with people, maybe being a part of a certain local community, investing in property, all these kind of things of when you live in a place, you start to invest in that place, not necessarily financially, but socially, in your community, and of course, financially. But by choosing your home and spending time there, you are building a home life for yourself. And that's something that I've missed by being a digital nomad. And because this last point seems to bother me a lot more than other people, but I just thought I'd share this one as well because you might be going through it, or maybe it's something you might consider in the future. For some people, it's family, where their home is where family is, and that's never going to change. For some people, they will feel lost after traveling for so often and wonder that question of where's my home. I think it's an emotional issue that probably affects other people other than me. So let me know if that's one that you feel as well as a long-term traveler or nomad. All right, so those are the 4 things. I just wanted to get them off my chest because I've been doing a lot of thinking the last few weeks since I've been back home. Hopefully this video helps you. Let me know if you're liking these frank discussions, and let's start a conversation in the comments about this. Unfortunately, I know a lot of you guys are starting out, but I can only speak from my experience, and this is where I am right now. So hopefully some of you guys are in a similar place and can relate. If not, maybe something to consider down the line, but hopefully an interesting video, an insightful video for you anyway. If you're new to the Chris the Freelancer YouTube channel, definitely check out some of the other videos. This is a bit more out on the advanced end, but I have lots of videos on where to get started as a digital nomad and videos on various destinations around the world. If you like this video, please give it a like, and thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you on the next video.